This book is banned in prison libraries across several American states. Guards take it directly from inmates' hands, not because it describes how to make weapons or plan an escape. The reason is simpler and far more disturbing. It explains how power actually works, how the strongest survive, how people who thought they were safe suddenly fall. And the most unsettling thing is that everything you read there, you immediately start recognizing. In your boss, in your friends, in yourself. The 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene. A book called immoral, unprincipled, and ruthless, and at the same time, the most honest one ever written. Today we break it down in 30 minutes. Subscribe so you never miss a book that changes how you see people and situations. No filler, straight to the point, every week. Robert Greene wrote this book in 1998. Before that, he held more than 50 different jobs: Hollywood screenwriter, magazine editor, construction worker, translator, private consultant. In Hollywood, he noticed something important. Beneath the smiles, compliments, and handshakes, everyone was playing the same game. The game of power. Some consciously, others as victims, not understanding the rules, not even seeing the board. Greene decided to write a manual for this game. He studied 3,000 years of history: Rome, China, the Italian Renaissance, revolutions, wars, and extracted 48 principles. Each one is not simply a rule, it is a concrete story. Who broke the law and what they lost, who followed it and what they gained. The book immediately came under fire. Critics called it a manual for manipulators, a textbook of cynicism, evil between two covers. But that is exactly why people bought it. 1,200,000 copies sold in the United States. Translations into 24 languages. Rapper 50 Cent said he recognized himself in it immediately and went on to co-write a book with Greene. Several university professors added it to required first-year reading. Greene says it plainly in the introduction. If the power game is inevitable, and it is, always and everywhere, it is better to be a master of it than a helpless amateur. Tell me in the comments, have you ever felt that someone was playing a game with you that you did not understand? What happened? The first group of laws is about invisibility. This is the most counterintuitive idea in the book. Most people believe that to rise, you need to shine, to show your talent, display results, demand attention. Greene says, that is exactly the path to catastrophe. Law 1 states, never outshine the master, and behind it is a story that is impossible to forget. The year 1661, France. Finance Minister Nicolas Fouquet wanted to impress the young king Louis XIV. He threw a party at his chateau Vaux-le-Vicomte, the most lavish event in French history. La Fontaine, La Rochefoucauld. Molière wrote a special play for the occasion and planned to perform in it himself. 7 courses of food, exotic Eastern dishes previously unknown in France, fireworks, a full orchestra, gardens that would later serve as the model for Versailles. The next day, Fouquet was arrested. 3 months later, convicted. He spent the last 20 years of his life in solitary confinement in the most isolated prison in France, high in the Pyrenees. What happened? Every firework, every admiring glance from the guests sent the king one message: your minister is richer than you, more popular, more refined. Fouquet never meant to humiliate Louis, but that is what the king saw. Louis never admitted his true reasons. He found a legal pretext and removed the man who made him feel small. He replaced Fouquet with a dull bureaucrat named Colbert, then built Versailles with the same architects and the same gardeners. Versailles eclipsed Fouquet's chateau forever. Greene writes, if the person above you is insecure, you can destroy them simply by existing, without any intention, and they have no choice but to remove you. There is another example, even more brutal. The young Italian prince Astorre Manfredi was the most beautiful young ruler in Italy at the time. Generous, sincere, loved by the people. When Cesare Borgia seized his city in 1500, he did not execute anyone and let Manfredi keep his freedom. A few months later, Manfredi was imprisoned. A year after that, his body was found in the Tiber with a stone around his neck. Borgia invented a charge of treason. The real reason? The young man outshone him effortlessly. His mere existence made Borgia look lesser. The lesson of Law 1 is simple. Whoever stands above you always wants to be the brightest person in the room. Your job is to help them be that, not to compete. Law 3. Conceal your intentions. In 1850, Bismarck delivered a passionate speech in the Prussian parliament against war with Austria. Everyone was stunned. Bismarck, a military patriot who had dreamed of uniting Germany through iron and blood, suddenly against war? The speech changed the vote. War was avoided. The grateful king appointed Bismarck minister. From that position, with gathered resources and perfect timing, Bismarck led Prussia into the very war he had always wanted, and won. He concealed his true intentions through public self-contradiction, and won twice over. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. Louis XIV, when ministers came waiting for a decision, answered with just 3 words, "I will think," and walked away, never to return to the subject. Ministers did not know what he was thinking. They could not manipulate him through flattery. They feared and respected him. Andy Warhol understood this in his youth, and once told a friend, "If you keep quiet, you gain more power." He gave interviews full of expansive, uncommitted phrases. Journalists searched them for meaning. Warhol almost never explained his work. The less he said, the more others said about it. I remember reading that passage about silence as a tool of power and being struck by one thought. We all believe words create impressions, that you need to explain, prove, convince. In reality, it is the emptiness that others fill, with fear, respect, and speculation. The second group of laws is about the people around you. This is where Greene hits hardest. Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. The 9th century, Byzantine Empire. Young Emperor Michael III elevated his best friend Basil, a simple stable hand from a peasant family in Macedonia. Basil had saved the emperor from a wild horse. Michael began showering him with gifts: education, wealth, a noble title, an advisory role, influence. Within a few years, Basil held more real power than the emperor himself: more money, more sway in the army, more supporters. When Michael asked for the return of some borrowed funds, Basil refused, with an innocent expression. A few weeks later, Michael woke after a banquet to find himself surrounded by soldiers. Basil then rode through the streets of Constantinople. On the tip of his lance was the head of his benefactor. Greene explains the psychology precisely. A person you have given everything to will eventually believe they earned it themselves. Gratitude is one of the shortest-lived emotions in human nature. It evaporates the moment a person no longer needs you. An enemy you spare owes you their life. That is a different psychology entirely. The Chinese general who became Emperor Song understood this before anyone else. He invited his most dangerous enemies to dinner instead of executing them. One rebel trembled receiving a cup of wine, certain it was poisoned. He begged for mercy. The emperor took the cup and drank from it himself. There was no poison. That man became the most loyal vassal in the empire. Because he had been given back a life he had already lost in his mind. Law 11. Make others depend on you. This sounds manipulative, but Greene frames it differently. If you are essential, you are free. The more people depend on your knowledge, the more room you have to maneuver. Galileo applied this masterfully in the 16th century. When he discovered the moons of Jupiter, he did not simply announce the finding. He wrote that the 4 moons appeared at the precise moment of Cosimo II's coronation, that their number matched the number of members in the Medici dynasty. He named the discovery in their honor. The Medici immediately appointed him court philosopher and mathematician with a full salary. Galileo had made himself indispensable. Law 10. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. Greene is not calling for cruelty. He is saying something else. Emotional states are contagious. If your circle sees threat in every opportunity and others' success as pure luck, you will eventually think the same way. Not because you are weak, but because that is how the brain works. Has it ever happened to you that someone in your inner circle was pulling you down and you didn't want to admit it for a long time? Tell me in the comments. The third group of laws is about building your image. Greene is not a moral philosopher. He is a strategist. And he says, in a world where everything is judged by appearances, reputation is real capital, and it works even while you sleep. Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. The great Chinese general Zhuge Liang once found himself in a small town with almost no soldiers as 100,000 enemy troops approached. Instead of fleeing or fighting, he ordered the city gates opened, hid his soldiers, and seated himself on the city wall in a monk's robe and began to sing, playing a lute. The enemy reached the gates. Commander Sima Yi recognized the general. He watched for a long time, then he ordered the army to retreat. Because Liang's reputation was such that Sima Yi simply could not believe this was not a trap. Open gates, singing, incense, too obvious, which meant something terrible was lurking behind it. That is what reputation means. It can stop an entire army without a single shot fired. Law 6. Court attention at all costs. Everything is judged by what can be seen. If you are invisible, you do not exist. Greene states one of his hardest truths. The best specialist without visibility will always lose to a mediocre one who knows how to seem. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Do not accept the role society, your environment, or your family has assigned you. Decide consciously how you want to be perceived. Greene writes, "It is better to be the author of your own image than to let others define it for you." This does not mean pretending. It means choosing what you show the world, and doing it deliberately. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe. People have a powerful desire to believe in something greater than their daily life. If you give them a goal, a framework, a reason to follow you, they will. Greene says, "The greatest leaders in history never gave people a plan. They gave them faith. Not instructions, meaning. People do not need a roadmap. They need to feel the road leads somewhere that matters." Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. Truth is often avoided because it is unpleasant. People who can conjure a romantic vision are like an oasis in a desert. Everyone is drawn to them. Never appeal to difficulty and reality if you want to lead. Appeal to the possible future, to what things could become. That is the real power of image. Law 43. Win hearts and minds. Violence breeds resistance. Seduction creates loyalty. A person you have won over through ideas does not need to be pushed, they want to act. People who believe in a cause are 10 times more productive than those who are forced. This is not only a law of power, it is the law of all leadership. I remember the moment this truly hit me. We think others see us as we are, but that is an illusion. People see us as we allow ourselves to be seen. The fourth group is strategy. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. Most people think about the beginning and the middle, but forget the finish. That is where everything is decided, in how things end, not how they start. If you do not know where you want to be, you go wherever circumstances carry you, and circumstances never carry you where you want. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. Do not scatter them. Find one point of application and drive into it. This runs counter to the culture of multitasking. But concentration is what creates real strength. Intensive effort always beats extensive effort. Law 30. Never let the effort show. Your actions should appear natural and effortless. All the labor, all the maneuvering, hidden. Greene says, "Never tell people how hard you worked. That only invites questions. People who accomplish great things with apparent ease always make a stronger impression than those who remind you of their effort at every step." Law 47. Know when to stop. This is the hardest of all. The moment of victory is the moment of greatest risk. That is precisely where overconfidence kills most often. History is full of commanders who won wars and lost everything by going one step too far. Set a goal, and the moment you reach it, stop. Secure the win. Do not reach for more. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. One of the most paradoxical laws. When you are weaker, do not fight for honor. Surrender. Greene says, that is not weakness, that is strategy. It buys you time to recover, time to exhaust the winner, time to wait until his strength fades. Do not give him the satisfaction of a direct victory. Give way and continue the game. Law 31. Control all the options. The best deception is the one where you appear to give the other person free choice. The target thinks they are deciding for themselves. In reality, both roads lead to your destination. If you can put someone before a dilemma where either option serves your interests, you have already won before the conversation begins. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Everyone has a gap in their defenses. Insecurity, uncontrollable desires, hidden fears. Once you find that pressure point, you have the key. Greene is not talking about cruelty. He is talking about understanding. To understand another person's weakness is to understand how to engage with them effectively. It works in negotiations, in friendships, in business. The fifth group, what you must never do under any circumstances. Law 18. Do not build a fortress. Isolation is dangerous. When afraid, we want to close off, build walls, retreat from people and information. Greene says, that is exactly what makes you most vulnerable. Without people, you are blind. Without allies, you are an easy target. Enemies do not attack someone who is surrounded, they attack the loner. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Predictability is the control others have over you. If everyone knows how you will react, you can already be planned around. The unpredictable person forces others to spend energy guessing rather than attacking. Become deliberately inconsistent, and you knock your opponents off balance. Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Anger and emotion are strategically counterproductive. Always remain calm. But if your calmness itself can destabilize an opponent, that is a decisive advantage. An angry person makes mistakes. A calm one uses them. Law 40. Despise the free lunch. Whatever is offered for free almost always carries a hidden obligation or creates dependency. Paying full price keeps you free. No debts, no gratitude that will be called in at the worst possible moment. Greene puts it bluntly, you cannot be brilliant and cheap at the same time. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. If you succeed an outstanding person, everything you do will be compared to what they did, usually not in your favor. Greene says, do not try to surpass a great predecessor on their own ground. Change direction. Create your own territory. Let them be great in the past. You will be great in the present. Law 45. Preach change, but never reform too much at once. People understand the need for change in the abstract, but react painfully to it in their actual lives. Change gradually. Frame it as a small improvement to what exists, not as the destruction of the familiar. That way, resistance stays minimal. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. Envy creates secret enemies. The smart person occasionally reveals a flaw and admits to harmless weaknesses to seem more human and at the same time to stay out of reach of envy. Only gods and the dead can appear perfect without consequences. And finally, Law 48. Assume formlessness. By taking a fixed shape and having visible plans, you open yourself to attack. Be fluid. Stay in motion. Like water, it fills any container but cannot be compressed. Nothing is permanent. No rules last forever. Everything changes. Those who understand this do not cling to outdated strategies. They always find a new form. Law 34. Act like a king to be treated like one. How you present yourself determines how you are treated. If you carry yourself as though you belong somewhere beneath your level, people will place you there. Confidence and dignity require no proof. They are a statement in themselves. By carrying yourself with dignity, you signal that this is where you belong. Law 35. Master the art of timing. Never show that you are in a hurry. Rushing reveals a lack of control over yourself. The person who rushes looks dependent on circumstances. The person who moves calmly and deliberately looks as though they control everything. Greene says, learn to choose the right moment. Acting too early is just as dangerous as acting too late. This is what makes this book truly remarkable. It does not teach you to be evil, it teaches you to see the game being played around you right now, to see motives behind words, to see when you are being used, and most importantly, to see when you are doing something to others without realizing it. Greene does not say to apply all 48 laws always and everywhere. He says something else. The person who does not know these rules is already playing by them, just on the losing side. You can close the book and decide none of this is about you. But the laws do not stop operating because you do not know them. You simply will not see them. And those who can see them will see you. We do the reading so you save the hours. If you want more breakdowns like this, support the channel. Thank you for watching. The 48 Laws of Power are a mirror. You look into it and see the world you are already living in. The person who knows the rules sees the game. The person who does not know them plays it blind. The choice is always yours. Subscribe to the channel. Every week, a book that changes how you see people, work, and life. In 30 minutes. No filler. Burning books is a crime, but not reading them is even worse. We fix that in 30 minutes. Subscribe.